Hi, this is Claire Martin from the UK, and you're watching me on Jazz Across the Pond with the Jazz Cat and Mr. GI. I hope you're enjoying.
You're a weaver of dreams, you and your strange fascination. You're a weaver of dreams, you and your come hither smile. Just to hear you speak can leave me weak as a babe in arms. Poor little babe in arms, helpless before your charms. You're a weaver of dreams, you and your lips warm and tender. Just like magic it seems, thrilling, enchanting me too. I'm in your spell and there's no cure, I'm lost for sure. You're a weaver of dreams and I'm in love with you. A weaver of dreams, you with your strange fascination. You're a weaver of dreams, you and your come hither smile. Just to hear you speak can leave me weak as a babe in arms. Poor little babe in arms, I'm helpless before your charms. 'Cause you are a weaver of dreams, you with your lips warm and tender. Just like magic it seems, thrilling, enchanting me too. I'm in your spell and there's no cure, I'm lost for sure. You are a weaver of dreams and I'm in love with you. A weaver of dreams, you and your strange fascination. You're a weaver of dreams, you and your come hither smile. Just to hear you speak can leave me weak as a babe in arms. Poor little babe in arms, helpless before your charms. You're a weaver of dreams, you and your lips warm and tender. just like magic it seems, thrilling, enchanting me too. I'm in your spell and there's no cure. I'm lost for sure. You're a weaver of dreams. You are a weaver of dreams. You are a weaver of dreams, and I'm in love with you.
Well, Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined. We have just been sitting here spellbound, mesmerized by the most incredible track. It really is. It's a track called Weaver of Dreams with the wonderful featuring the wonderful Kenny Barron from the album from 2011, although it was re-released in 2017, Too Much to Care. Well, we're never going to care too much for our special guest tonight. We are so honored and so privileged to have this wonderful lady come and join us. What can we say about this week's very, very special guest? Our very special guest ranks amongst the top 4 or 5 finest female jazz vocalists on the planet. Not the UK, on the planet. Few
I didn't say that,
are...
right? Just want to say that.
Well written, Claire, well written.
Build up, okay?
Sorry.
Few vocalists are as eloquent and elegant as our special guest tonight. She's one of the crown of jewels of the jazz world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and extend a warm welcome to the wonderful Claire Martin Ovigi. Hi there.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome. And that's well written, Claire.
When that was written, I couldn't believe that quote. Of course, I was just like, had it sort of tattooed on my arm. But since then, I think that there has been some new vocalists coming out that will give me a, I don't think it's 4 or 5, but I think that net has broadened. But hey ho, use it while I can. But
Yeah, but they will look up to you and aspire to be like yourself.
I guess there's a sort of. Now I'm however old I am, 50 something. I'm in a different generation. I look down at people like Veronica Swift and then my new favorite, Samara Joy. I mean, these two
I
girls
love
are
her.
incredible. And so I do feel like jazz is in safe hands when I hear those two. But I mean, it's nice. It's nice though. If they've heard of me, that's great.
Very
Well,
nice.
if you talk to Samara Joy, let her know that I sent her a friendship request that I would dearly love to receive. So you can put in a word for me.
Yeah, no, I will. I mean, you've got to be. It's a little bit iffy around her because she's still at college. I think she
I know,
doesn't
but
even know. It's
she's brilliant.
Yeah, she's amazing. Just played at Ronnie Scott's and knocked everyone out.
I bet.
Anyway,
Enough of them.
yeah,
Enough
let's get
of
back
her.
to yourself. So the album Too Much in Love to Care, it's a fabulous album. But on saying that,
Thank you.
to be honest with yourself, any one of yours is up to you. You can probably see there's a gap in my Den of Iniquity wall of CDs, and that's where you have pride place up there.
Is that under C or under M? How are we doing that with the? Is it a first name or last name?
That's female artists down there.
Oh, female artist. Okay.
Male, and then bands are over here. So anyway, so very good evening, welcome along. So let's see if our researchers have done their homework correctly this week. They're usually pretty good and pretty hot.
Okay.
Claire was born in Collier's Wood in London. You grew up in a house full of music, thanks to your jazz-loving parents. You cite Ella Fitzgerald's songbooks as your inspiration to study singing. Your professional career began at the tender age of 19. That was only 10 years ago. When you sang in a hotel band at the Savoy Hotel. That was after 2 years working as the Blue Coat. Well, you auditioned to be the Blue Coat in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
But for 2 years, this is a little bit this interesting bit, and you're going to like this bit. For 2 years, you sang on board the Cunard QE2.
I did.
You
Yeah.
sang on the piano bar. I worked on the QE2, and I'm actually wondering if I was on at the same time as yourself.
Probably. Well, I was 20, so 87 to 89.
I worked for Cunard from 85 to 89.
I may have just missed it. As you were getting off, I was getting on there.
Yeah,
But I was in the Cunard Princess, the sister ship, which was a bit of a tugboat.
That was
after
a tugboat. That was
Yeah,
a
but-
total tugboat. Well, I actually did a short stint on the Countess. There was the
That's a tugboat.
Oh, that's another tugboat. That should have sank that years ago. But no, I spent most of my life on the Sagafjord.
Whoa,
Oh yeah,
there's
we're talking 5-star plus. Roger
I
Lee
think
was on the
it's amazing.
Sagafjord.
A great place to work. What a great place to start as a musician learning their craft, literally at sea.
Mm.
And some people that some students that I teach now at a theatre school, I teach at this uni. It's I say, what do you want to do when you leave? And they all say we want to work the cruise ships, want to go on the cruise ships because they see the benefits of that, intense work load, but also seeing the world. It's such a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
I
couldn't
did
believe
3 world
it.
cruises on the Sagafjord.
Yeah, wow.
That way round, and that. In actual fact, I was stage manager, DJ, and radio DJ on the ships. So I
I
was in
can
charge
see
of
that.
I did all the sound desk, all the rest of it, and the master of ceremony, and that in my tuxedo. And but I did all that, and my wife, she was a dancer on the ships, and she's from Braunton, where I'm talking to you now. I'm originally from Torquay, which is an hour and a half away. We met in Miami. We never met in this country.
Very nice. That's a nice story.
Can you
Anyway,
imagine can you imagine a DJ and a dancer getting
DJ
together? Can
and a
you?
dancer. What
No,
the
you could have been
chances?
an opera singer, maybe. I don't know, but
anyway, let's get back to this. Is not the Roger Lee
oh
interview. We're talking about
no,
yourself. Anyway, it's amazing how our paths may have potentially kind of met along there. Claire, would you please tell us more, the followers, about your wonderful childhood with your family, your introductory into jazz, and just some of the things we were just talking. Just try to bring us up to speed, please.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, bless them, they're still alive, and they love good music. My mum is an Ella fan, Frank Sinatra. I was very lucky to be born in a house where they played a lot of good music, and I didn't like it at the time. Of course, I didn't. I was a kid growing up. I was like, what? And my mum used to drag me to Jack Jones concerts and
Oh,
Vic Damone, and I'd be like, what's going on? But it must have seeped in, and of course,
yes,
Sarah Vaughan, Judy Garland, she's a big Streisand fan. I mean, so my mum and the human voice really, and going to a stage school part time and doing singing and dancing. So it really was her influence. But my dad's 84. He's got a little ukulele band, and he still goes around old folks' homes. Most of the people in the band
so
are older
cute.
than the people in the old folk home, but they love music, and they're very
Hmm.
gregarious, and it's so that's where I guess it came from. And I just, when I was 19, I started taking it seriously and was making money doing it, then I took it quite seriously. But I think it was just that whole swing and the whole stuff that I knew. When I auditioned for that first job, I sang a couple of Gershwin tunes simply because I'd known them from my mum playing Ella. So
Right.
yeah, it was good. But that's how I did sort of fall into it really. I only had one real day job, but I'm very
Well,
grateful
then,
that music saved me really.
well, the next 4 years of your life were pretty amazing too. And in 1988, at the tender age of 21, you formed your own jazz quartet.
Yeah.
And of course, your recognition in the UK as a rising jazz vocalist just went through the roof at that point. In 1991, you were signed by the Scottish jazz label, the Lynn Records. And your
Yeah.
debut album, The Waiting Game, was released the following year, 1992.
Oh,
Now,
it was. Look at my little innocent little face.
I might add that my favorite tracks on The Waiting Game are the cheeky Some Cats. I
And
love
Keys
that
to Your
track.
Ferrari.
That
Yeah,
is,
okay.
yeah, well, and obviously Keep Your Ferrari, Key to the
Yeah,
Ferrari. But
yeah. Thank you.
yeah, Some Cats I think is just a great song. And of course, in 1992, you also opened for Tony Bennett at the Glasgow International Jazz Festival. Now,
Yeah.
that's an amazing 4 years. I mean, going from
You know
creating a
what it was?
quartet to opening for Tony Bennett. I mean, you talk about being on a fast track. So before I get too far along, I wanted to point out that the Jazz Cat, Mr. Roger Lee, introduced me to your music several months ago. I hate to admit it,
Thanks, Roger. Thank
that that I'd heard of your name because of Roger, but when I did a deep dive, I mean, I was like totally blown away.
Thank you. That's
So I
very
had to
kind.
throw that in
Thank
there.
you.
But the one thing I love about you is that you have got not only an incredible voice and incredible phrasing, which is what it's all about, but you've got that smoky, sultry contralto quality to your voice that I love so much.
Thank
As a
you.
matter of fact, I've been drawn to vocalists like, Nina Simone and Etta James, Sarah Vaughan, Sade, Patsy Cline, Bonnie Raitt, and Beth Hart to bring it a little more current. I love that sound. So I fell in love
Yeah.
with you immediately. But my first question, though, is regarding that initial jazz quartet. I mean, given the distinctiveness of your voice, I'm curious as to what instruments, at least initially, you decided to surround yourself with. The second part of the question would be, are any of those members of that quartet, are you still in touch with them?
Yeah,
And
oh
then-
yeah, that good question.
And then the third part of it, and I know you'll track, the third part is, how did the gig opening for Tony Bennett come about?
Well, the first question is, when you sing in jazz, you normally get a piano, bass, drums trio. So I got a piano, bass, drums trio, which is like a regular trio lineup in this particular genre of music. But I was pretty savvy because I went to my favorite guitarist ever, Jim Mullen, who I'd been going to see, and I literally just said to him, "I've got a couple of gigs. Do you fancy doing them?" And I lured him in by giving him my fee as well as his fee, because he obviously is brilliant and I was starting out. So I knew that people might say, "Who's Claire Martin?" but they'll know who Jim Mullen is. So I kind of got it together with him. And he was brilliant and has been and I'm still working with Jim.
Yes, obviously.
After, in fact, we just got something in this today for next Easter. So, I mean, he's a legend, a wonderful, wonderful, been such a champion for me. And I think the Tony Bennett gig came about because, just like I'm looking at a young singer in Scotland now, actually called Georgia Cecile, who's very good. She's just starting out, and it's a fantastic opportunity when you are supporting somebody. It makes sense that there's a sort of, and she was just at the Albert Hall supporting Gregory Porter, and that made sense. It looked great, and it was her chance. So I did the same thing with Al Jarreau and Kurt Elling, and then the Tony Bennett thing. I was just go on and do a little hour, great exposure for me.
Yes.
Amazing opportunity to meet Tony Bennett, who was so amazing and so warm, and so we all took pictures with him, like hundreds of them. We just wouldn't let him go, and he was just great. So that's how that came about, I think. And also my manager at the time was Scottish, so it all made sense. I hope that I was very in awe, and I did appreciate what was happening, and I did realize that it was the start of something, that I was new on the scene and people were taking an interest, and I tried my best to work hard and be grateful, and he came to a couple of other gigs during my career. At the Algonquin, I was doing the Algonquin for the first time ever, and he came in on the first night and sat there. He was a little bit late, and I sort of thought, who's coming late? And I gave him a "who's this" look, and then he sits down and it's Tony Bennett. But what he did for me by doing that was he created a buzz, and everybody knew that he'd been there so for 2 weeks.
Right.
And it helped my press, and he really was amazing. I think he is one of the greatest voices of our music, and he's a fabulous artist as well, of course.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah, he was terrific. So
we'll come back to the Algonquin Hotel in a little bit, but let me let
Okay.
Roger jump in now.
Okay, so
Okay.
the Manson game, yeah, I mean, I love the album. I got into it many, many years ago. Of course, Clark Tracy on drums and Jim Mullen.
yeah,
I love, it was Dick Morrissey and Jim Mullen, the Morrissey
that's
Mullen.
exactly right. Morrissey Mullen. That's who I used to go and watch. Exactly
Oh,
right.
acid jazz. And I mean, Kate Ruff, the Bristol Boogie is my Groundhog Day piece of music I always start my radio show with. I always play that Jim Mullen every week on my jazz show. So
Amazing.
isn't that amazing like that? Anyway, so Lynn Records artist Claire Martin has a worldwide critical acclaim, established herself as a tour de force within the jazz scene, gaining many awards, including the British Jazz Awards 8 times. Ready? 8 times.
Yeah, but
Career, which spanned over 30 years. And it's 2018, proud recipient of the BASCA Gold Badge Award. Now, also,
get
the
that.
salute starts now, because, of course, at the Queen's birthday honours in the June of that, you were delighted to be honoured with the OBE. Now, for our American followers who may be going, OBE, what's this? Okay.
I thought you meant the OMG. I'm sorry.
The OMG, yeah.
The honour of the British Empire.
Empire.
The most excellent
Yes.
order of the British Empire. And so we salute you for that. So,
I wish the E stood for entertainment rather than empire. That's the only thing I wish. But
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a huge surprise. I still can't quite believe I got that. But anyway, I had a nice day.
Congratulations, and take it and absolutely run with it.
No,
But
I took it on behalf of women in jazz, and I took it on behalf of the scene, and I went and represented people that it shone a light on, and it's enabled me to do a few things I probably wouldn't, it's opened some doors. I wouldn't say it's up to my way. I want a refund. Get the but it's been I mean I thought it was a joke at first. I thought it was someone messing around because my agent said, "Oh, you've got this letter from the Queen." I'm like, "Yeah." And I was and the government sent it to you, and I just kept thinking of all the parking tickets and all the wrong I've done, and I thought I'm just going to jail. It's just a so it was incredible, and it was a wonderful day out at Buckingham Palace, and I was very grateful. But it hasn't really changed my life, but it's been an amazing honor, and
Well,
yeah,
uh,
I'm touched.
thoroughly deserved. So my question,
Absolutely.
as you look back over your last 30 years of your career,
35 years, Roger, don't be kind. It's
My good
35 years.
how have you keep the creative edge that continues you to earn recognition from your organizations like this, from jazz? So how have you managed to challenge yourself?
How do I keep it fresh, do you mean? Well,
Yes.
I think I mean, well, first of all, you kind of have to do the reinvention because this is a small island, and I can't always, unfortunately, go and hang out with Kevin and sing in wonderful places in America. I do quite a bit in Scandinavia though, and I travel as much as I can.
Mhm.
So you've got to keep it fresh, otherwise you're lapping the UK doing the same stuff. So you play with different people, you look at different material, you look at different. I've done an album with just four cellos. I've done some quite mad stuff. I did a more poppy couple of albums. So I think they're like pages in your diary. What shall I do next? Who's available? Where can I try and make that work? I'm very driven. I wouldn't say I was overly ambitious, but I'm a get up and go girl. I don't, and I need to pay my rent, so I keep it. It's as obvious as that. I mean, it's like, okay, I need some work, but I've been lucky that I've worked with amazing people, and they've introduced me to amazing people, and and so I've
Right.
got breaks through networking, I think, and being lucky enough to go to Denmark and have a band that's Swedish, and I think that's it, really, Roger. I mean, there's no trick to it. I think it's just you keep on keeping on.
Kevin, last question for you
Mm.
before we play another track.
Yes, Claire, 2 years ago, you collaborated with the outstanding composer, arranger, orchestrator, and trombonist, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly.
Go on.
Callum Aw?
Calamao, like Chairman
Callum.
Mao. Calamao.
Callum Howe.
Yeah.
Well, together, the two of you combine elements from, I mean, it's just brilliant. You've taken the jazz trio format, you've added a string quartet, a large orchestra. You've created what I would call sort of a chamber ensemble. I love chamber music, but it's almost like a chamber ensemble of something like 82 total musicians.
Yeah.
And the
Eight-
result is pure magic. It's pure magic.
Oh, thank you.
As and I blow my horn a little bit, as a classically trained multi-instrumentalist myself, I would say that 2020 collaboration between the two of you, it's entitled Songs and Stories, is indeed magnificent. It speaks to me on so many different levels because you've got that big band influence, you've got the beautifully layered orchestra, you've got great transitions from up tempo to down tempo, and I mean it's just
Thank you.
the arrangements are just phenomenal. And of course
He's
your
something
vocals
else. He's something
and you-
else. He's
and
something-
and your vocals are the icing on the cake.
Well, when he called me up, it was the greatest day of perhaps my life, even because people
He's
ringing you
brilliant.
to a project. He said, "Do you want to come and sing on this album? I'm going to do this album of everything I can possibly do as a calling card." And I thought he meant just sing a couple of songs, like the singer
Right.
sing a couple of songs. He said, "No, on every track," and I was like, "Okay." And to be just the person that went to the project rather than the having to make the project happen was fantastic. And I soon realized, because I'd worked with him a bit before, obviously he'd heard me singing, that he really is something. He is
He's
something.
phenomenal.
He's
He
30
is
years
phenomenal.
old. I mean, he's got a magnificent ear, an amazing musician, and he arranges. So it was a dream come true. I just went to the studio and did this. It was honestly the time of my life. And then, of course, unfortunately, the pandemic came. But
Yeah.
it hindered us. But we're hoping that we can reignite some of the gigs for
I
next
hope
year.
so. Yeah.
It's such a massive 82 people is
Mm.
big old venue we need. But
Well, I'm a big fan of Cole Porter, Jerome Kern, and Hoagie Carmichael. So the arrangements of their music on the project was just masterful. I mean, I've heard stories about Colin being able to get an invitation to take part on a project in the morning, and before the end of the day, he has completely mapped it out,
wow.
arranged it, written it, and worked up a demo just to give somebody the idea of what it was. I mean, he's totally brilliant. But I do have to say that the opening track of Pure Imagination, I mean, I'm secure in my masculinity, but I mean, it made me cry. It just moved me so much. It's so beautifully done. I mean, the way it just leads off, you know, it starts off like it's a jazz trio, and then these strings come in, and it's like you spread your wings, you know, and you start to soar. I mean, it's just so beautiful. And the other aspect of it is the cover of Cole Porter's I Concentrate on You.
That was the hardest song to learn. He's
That
made it
was
to something
stunning.
else.
That
Yeah,
was
he
stunning.
made it.
So,
That's a real earworm, that little da ba da ba da 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 dee da da da. Once you got that in your head, I had that in my head for about 3 weeks. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it was like a cloud to sing on. It was just an amazing. I'm hoping that he now wants to do Songs and Stories Volume 2. You know,
Ooh.
I just keep trying to persuade him. But
well, I
no,
thought,
that was a
weren't y'all
highlight of my career. A
weren't y'all
highlight.
talking about taking a small ensemble in touring? Was it
Yeah, we
supposed to have been
were,
last
but
year? COVID and
but it just it kind of it's very hard to do that now. Venues are really struggling, you know, to get
Right.
to entice people in, and they've got a backlog of things. And Callum went and got married, and he's going to be a dad. How dare he?
Yeah, you-
He's going to be busy. It's like,
well, speaking of
"Come alive.
songs,
What about this career?
speaking of songs and stories, I think Roger needs to do something for us at this point. So
I'm going to jump in because I'm consciously aware of time, and
Right.
followers now, we've
Yeah, I
had
can
a taste
stop,
of it,
sorry.
but we've been talking about this album. They're going, well, can we hear it a little bit? Yeah, we're going to hear a little bit. We're going to play I Never Went Away from the wonderful, wonderful album, Songs and Stories. Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond will be back momentarily with the lovely Claire Martin to continue this interesting conversation. Stay with us, have a listen to this fabulous track.
I tried to get away from you, to leave the past behind me. I went on trains and boats and planes where love would never find me. But oh my dear, however far away I flew, no matter where I traveled to, I never went away from you. I never went away. Whenever I would lose my way, without a star to guide me, I always found I'd turn around and you'd be there beside me. And so, my dear, however far away I flew, no matter where I traveled to, I never went away from you. I never went away. I tried to get away from you, to find myself a new love, a different face, a warm embrace. But all I found was you, love, and so, my dear, however far away I flew, no matter where I traveled to, I never went away from you. I never went away. I never went away. I never went away.
Welcome back to Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined with the Jazz Cat and Mr. G. We've been listening to I Never Went Away from Callum Howe and Claire Martin's incredible 2020 project, Songs and Stories. Claire, I Never Went Away is such a wonderful arrangement of Sir Richard Rodney Bennett's composition. And if I'm not mistaken, you had brought up the Algonquin Hotel. If I'm not mistaken, you had a 3-week residency at the Algonquin in New York City with Sir Rodney. And I also believe you recorded a project with him in 2010 called Witchcraft. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did 3 albums in the end. Richard and I were dear friends, and for years I watched him play with various singers. I mean, he worked with Cleo Lane, he worked with Marion Montgomery, as well as doing. I mean, he really was a Renaissance man. He wrote film scores, he wrote classical pieces, he wrote symphonies. I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, he really was. I think he was a genius, a proper, real. He wore it very lightly. So when all these, and then he worked with a woman called Mary Claire Harron, and she was great. And I was kind of watching and biding my time, and eventually kind of my time came. It was my time, and I steamed in, and I had about 10 years with him up until his death, and sadly in 2012. But
Yes.
a phenomenal. And that I Never Went Away was his song that he wrote when he moved to America in the 70s, and he left a love affair, and he's saying in the song, I tried to get away from you. I went all the way to America, but I never went away. My heart still stayed there. So it's a very poignant song, and it means a lot to me. I'm glad you picked that one, Roger, and Kevin. Thank you. But I miss him. I really miss him. He was a font of all knowledge. He knew he kind of knew everything, and he was
Well,
a good heart.
you've alluded to it. He spent the last 33 years of his life here in America, and so
Yes, he
we got to know him and love him, and we know that. I mean, we miss him,
Yeah.
and I know that those were special moments for you as well.
Yeah, they
So,
were. They truly were. He
I'm
was
glad
he
you
was
had.
great.
I'm glad you had those opportunities, Roger.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Okay, Claire has been a co-presenter for the BBC's Radio 3's jazz lineup since 2000. Has interviewed many musical heroes, including, I'm going to have to say, Pat Metheny.
I know.
Wall down there.
Wow.
Pat Metheny is like, oh.
I know. I cried when I met him. I was so emotional.
Michael Brecker, Andre Previn, and collaborated with the wonderful Martin Taylor, Stephen Grappelli, Kenny Barron, Jim Mullen, we've already spoken about, and Nigel Hancock. Now, please tell us very briefly, because we are conscious aware of time, tell us more about this show that you present.
Well, I mean, I stopped presenting in 2017, actually. So that's probably my error on my biog. But for 17 years, it was a flagship of Radio 3. It's still going now under a name of Jazz A to Z. and I co-presented it with the great pianist Julian Joseph. And it was a magazine show. It was a What's On. You're talking about festivals, what gigs to go to, and people would come do Ronnie Scott's and then walk around the corner and be interviewed by us. So that's how I got to meet all these greats. They'd come and have it, and so it was amazing. I mean, amazing. Or except I did go to Claridge's to interview Diana Krall, so I was laying on the double bed at Claridge's with Diana Krall. She was pregnant. I mean, it was brilliant because not only was it just felt very natural to me to play music and tracks, but musicians like being interviewed by other musicians. You know, they do like that. So it was very relaxed. I would talk to someone like Brad Meldau, you know, fantastic, huge, very intelligent man, but he was very warm, you know, and it was lovely. And Pat Metheny a couple of times, and you know, I met my heroes. I mean, Michael Brecker, I stayed up all the night before. I was too nervous to sleep, but he was the nicest man, and it was just so encouraging to me as a sort of young viewer. Yeah, so and Tanya Maria and Diane Reeves, and I mean all sorts of people. Andre Previn was incredibly interesting. You know, it was great, really, really great, and I miss it, but it eventually took up too much time, you know, as you both know, doing the interview stuff before and getting all the questions, right?
And some people just talk forever when you ask them questions too, and you can't get a word in sideways. I mean, sometimes that happens.
Sometimes that happens. I mean, that's me. That's me. I think it's because I've been used to people I've interviewed who haven't said much, so I overcompensate now.
Right.
You'll have to tell me just to shut up.
Oh, Claire, shut up. So Claire, you toured and performed over the years throughout the UK. You mentioned Scandinavia, but you've been to Russia and China, appearing with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic and, of course, your world-class trio. In 2011, you made your debut at the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts here in New York. Well, not here in New York City, but here in the States, in New York City, with the Grammy-nominated pianist Bill Charlap. I think your fans here on this side of the pond feel it's high time you launch another foray here in the USA.
Me too.
Any chance we might see you stateside sometime soon?
Oh, do you know, I would love that. It's not that it's not. It's easy to get gigs. I could get a booking. I could definitely get a booking.
Oh, sure.
But it's a little bit broader than that because then you have to get a work permit, and then you have to get your accommodation, and then you have to get your flights, and then you have to get some rehearsal. So you end up breaking even or even coming out at a loss. And not that it's all about that, but eventually after the Algonquin was different. They would get your work permit for you, and you'd stay at the Algonquin. So all of a sudden it was just like a normal gig. But it's, you know, so actually it's a lot more involved than just getting the gig. But I definitely want to come back to New York and play Dizzy's and Birdland and do so. I haven't played at Birdland. And of course, I want to go down to Louisiana where my daughter's studying and maybe see if I can get something. I've never been to New Orleans. I'm going soon.
Oh, wow.
I'm
They'd love you. They would love you.
To America. It's just not that easy for us Brits. We have to go for a whole day at the US Embassy. We get interviewed as to why we're doing the gig. You know, it's quite hard to get in there. But I'm really, really, really want to. I've never sang in Chicago. I was in LA a couple of years ago to do a charity thing, so I have been there kind of recently, but I can't wait, and thank you for saying that. So it makes me feel even more like I want to go.
Okay, last couple of questions because Lady Time is beginning to close its doors on us, which is I hate. Anyway, Claire is currently working on her next album project, which is a collaboration with American conductor pianist Scott Dunn and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. They will pay homage to your dear friend Richard Rodney Bennett and recording his songs alongside. You're going to be doing whole arrangements of a lot of stuff at Abbey Road. We've got to add on that.
Well, I mean, we hope to be Abbey Road, but they're so booked up from all the backlogs since COVID that the date has moved 5 times. We're trying to get 2 days, so we may have to do one day at Abbey Road, one day, but we'd love to do it at Abbey Road because it just sounds good, doesn't it? And it's also a fantastic group. But anyway, let's say it is going to happen at Abbey Road.
Okay, what can you tell us about this new project then?
Well, the new project is definitely it's a tribute and homage to Richard. Scott Dunn, the conductor who's based in LA and great pianist, great arranger, was very close friends. So we're doing something for our friend. And they're all brand new arrangements of either Richard's songs that he penned, or Richard's songs that he loved to sing. Like he loved to sing Autumn in New York, and he loved to sing I Wonder What Became of Me. So some of them are the ones he sang, but mostly it's going to be his material. So it's just a massive love fest for Richard, with a beautiful orchestra with brand new arrangements. So again, very, very lucky. We've just got to try and record it because it's incredibly hard getting these big studios, simply because of what we've been through. So that's actually a bit of a that's a little bit of an issue, but I don't have to worry about that right now. But I think we're doing it in August and it'll come out in maybe late next year. So that's that. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, take it from the two of us. We would love to invite you back onto the show and to talk
Yeah,
about
for
the new
sure.
album and promote it. We'd love
Definitely.
that. Now,
Yeah, definitely.
okay. About 6 months ago, we interviewed the wonderful David Benoit and Mark Winkler, and we had a chat about their fabulous album, Old Friends, and we became their new friends. And we were chatting to them, and Mark actually said, because apparently the December last year, while we were all in the lockdown, you were meant to be going to America to do a couple of shows with him.
Yeah, that all just didn't happen. But I did the charity thing with Mark actually. But he's been a friend for years. I've sung a couple of his songs now. He's a great lyricist and a
Oh,
fantastic,
absolutely. Yeah.
fantastic person. He's full of life. He can always doing new fantastic things. And I've met so many great people through him. But yeah, we need to see each other. He's another person I need to get out to see. But yeah. Oh, I'm glad you had him on. I think that would have been good. He's a good talker as well.
The two of them were great, and we were chatting about old friends, and they were just there were two different sides of Los Angeles, and we were chatting to them, and then we were reminiscing, and we were chatting about the track 2 for the Road with Henry Mancini, of course. And I then brought up, I said, well, as a child growing up, one of my favorite albums was Henry Mancini's A Warmer Shade of Ivory. Well, David Benoit nearly fell off his chair. He jumped, he went, somebody else in this world, they love that album because that's my favorite album. That's it. David Benoit messages me every so often. When I put a picture of a cat, like the jazz cat, he goes, Roger, I love that cat. I love the album too. And it just reignited.
Who would have thought that would have been a trigger, but it was brilliant. Well, well played, Roger, as it turns out.
It was also a George Shearing, Carmen McRae album, wasn't it? 2 for the Road. I think that song was on there, I'm sure. But yeah, great song. Yeah, how funny. So it is a kind of community, isn't it, this music? I mean, artists do know each other. You just can't help it. You bump into them over the years. But Mark is extra special for me because he does write these great tunes. I mean, wow.
He really does.
He's really got it. So he's special.
Well, we're finding that with this show that we've started, this Jazz Across the Pond was an idea because we realized that there were jazz artists that were coming out with albums, were unable to go on tour to promote and that. So I've known Kevin quite a while. And so we came up with this idea, Jazz Across the Pond, because instead of Jazz Across the Atlantic, let's just call it a pond. And we started, and we're amazed how we're having artists who will contact us. They've seen their fellow artists being interviewed. Yeah. And because we don't surprise anybody, there's no shock value, it's your show, and we're having out of the blue, we're having artists going, can we be on your show as well now? And which is fabulous.
Great, good for you. We need it. We do need this music. Is however much we think it's the best. Of course it is, but it's marginalized. You know what I mean? It's not. We don't get a lot of play on TV, and radio is quite rare. It's specialist. So any chance to talk about it and spread the word and get 5-10 new fans every time, it all adds up. It means something. It's important. We got to stick together. We're the outsiders.
There you go.
Kevin,
Claire, we've got about 4 minutes left. And
Okay.
There's one question that I'm dying to ask you.
Okay.
So you've kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm going to give her a little shout out.
Go on then.
Who is that beautiful Brighton Brit on the women's basketball team at Nicholls State University in Louisiana? I believe her name is Amelia Sandy.
Amelia Sandy. She is my one and only daughter who thankfully didn't want to do music and was very good at sport. Her dad's an ex-player and was her coach. And she went on to play for GB and England and Sussex and said, Mum, I just want to play in America, which is where it's at. And even though she was injured, they took her as a red shirt at Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Yes, the Raging, the Colonels.
She's playing for the Colonels, and I think there's a lot of similarity between basketball and jazz. I've started to really feel like that, there's set plays, but you improvise. You never know what's going to happen. You've got to gel as a team. You've
Good
got, I mean, it's
analogy.
it's it's a really good analogy. I just think it
Yeah.
is jazz with sneakers. So so there I've got this girl,
Oh,
I've
Claire.
got her doing it out there, and I'm very proud of her, and let's see how we go. But
Well,
I said to her, just
I
do
know
your
it's sexist to say it, but she's a great basketball player. She's a great point guard, but she is absolutely beautiful too.
Oh,
Oh
bless
my
her.
gosh.
Oh,
She's a
yes,
beautiful, beautiful young woman. So
that's very,
looks a
very
lot
kind.
like her mother.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, but I'm covered in makeup. She's just naturally beautiful. But I think what's really interesting is um the cultures, understanding the cultures and the difference in
Mm,
cultures out there. It's been a real eye opener, but she'll do well, I think, if she just keeps going. It's a credible opportunity, a full scholarship. They call it a full ticket, don't they? So she's in the land of the home of jazz, and I've not
that's
been there
right.
yet.
That's
I haven't
right.
been to New Orleans. What kind of a jazz singer am I?
Okay,
I'll be there. I'll be there on the 18th of December.
time is
And there's
very, very.
open carol singing session and for Christmas, and I'm going to go and sing with the candle, and I'm going to say I sang in New Orleans.
Okay, the time is literally running away with itself.
Okay.
It's Claire Martin. We're going to be finishing the show off with a wonderful, wonderful track called "Believing It" from the title track
Thank you.
on the Lynn Records. We'd love to see that. Hopefully, we'll get you at Ronnie Scott's. Would love to see you there and appearing there. Buy the albums, but treat yourself. And if you're looking for something to think to buy for Christmas, get that album there. It
That
is
is
stunning.
awesome.
Thank you,
It's
guys.
An awesome project.
Really, thank you so much. Means a lot.
Ladies and
You're very
gentlemen,
welcome.
Jazz Across the Pond, it has been our great, great pleasure.
Oh,
Tonight's show, if you heard my show last week, I'd like to dedicate this show to a very, very good friend of mine I lost just last week, Derek James, jazz pianist on the ships with myself, and over COVID, we lost him last week. So I dedicate tonight's show to him, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin, myself, Claire Martin, we can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, guys.
If you found a reason, something to believe in, something so pure, something so right, anyone can see it, we can all agree that this is so good, it's got to be tight. Life's illusion gives you something you can use and make it through the day and keep you warm at night. You can carry on now, confident and strong now, so the story goes. The point of pain and pleasure seem to come together. Neither light nor shadow, no black or white. What seems to sit together begs the question whether is it here or there, or is it wrong or right? Try to find the middle, even it out. Try to solve the riddle, figure it out. What seemed to be so certain is riddled with doubt. Believe in it. If you find a reason, something to believe in, something so pure, something so right, anyone can see it, they can all agree that this is so good, it's got to be tight. Why do we struggle with it? We got muddled in it. No, your eyes don't deceive. It's a breeze, just believe in it. 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 Do we need to see just to believe, or do we always have to hear or taste or feel to know if something's real? Not surprising when philosophizing really won't suffice. Ain't no rhyme or reason. It often seems so very hard for us to just trust everything. Will it be happening as should? It's all good, although we think in private that if we held all the cards, things could be better. Trying to play every part, just letting go is an art. You can find an even deeper peace within. Don't get distracted, kick back, relax, and then watch your spirit rising, thriving and surviving. Brave the net to find not some crazy guy up on high in the circus, balancing wild and wondrous, without a safety net below us, holding on to something greater. Take a leap of faith and stop believing it. find a reason, something to believe in, something so pure, something so right. Anyone can see it, we can all agree that this is so good, it's got to be tight. Life's illusion gives you something you can use and make it through the day and keep you warm at night. You can carry on now, confident and strong now, so the story goes. The point where pain and pleasure seem to come together, neither light nor shadow, no black or white, but seem to sit together. Begs the question whether is it here or there, or is it wrong or right? Try to find the middle, even it out, try to solve the riddle, figure it out. What seemed to be so certain is riddled with doubt.